What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome in to arguably the best in the paint podcast that we have to offer. Of course, it's where we bring you into everything men's college basketball has to offer. And folks, we made it. March Madness is about 48 hours away, at least the big tournament. Technically, it has already started as a few 16 seeds are going at it right now. But with me to get you ready is my friend and co-host, Raider Jim Martinez. You can find Mr. Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. How you doing tonight, sir?
Wow. Tell you what, if I don't put the towel down, my dancing shoes are going to be so shiny, you'll have to wear sunglasses to talk to me. But here we are. Can't believe it that, the Maui Classic and all that's so far in the rearview mirror. And here we are standing again on the apron of March Madness. Can't wait. As you said, two 16s are playing right now. Turn for that play-in game. San Diego State's going to be playing in a couple of hours. Wow, and then we have 2 more games tomorrow, and then we wake up on Thursday morning, and it'll be like Christmas.
Amen. Yes, I cannot wait for Thursday. I got a couple PTO days lined up to nothing better than getting paid to watch basketball. So it's going to be a fantastic day. Obviously, in order to get to that day, we had to get through Selection Sunday. Before we get to Selection Sunday, obviously the main question, or not, I shouldn't say before we get to Selection Sunday. We're already here. We're past it. But, I put in the notes, what kind of surprised you here or there. But it really, at the end of the day, I was even going through kind of our text exchange on Sunday. The main story of Selection Sunday was North Carolina and Bubba Howard, who, unfortunately, we've seen a few times where after the selection committee comes out, we learn that, hey, this athletic director is on the committee, and we kind of go, that's interesting. But this situation seemed very obvious. North Carolina, a team that very few people had in their brackets, gets in. Bubba Howard is a chair on the selection committee. He also got a $100,000 bonus for making the tournament. That isn't incredible. Like most athletic directors have that in their contract, but obviously seems like, hey, you could put your thumb on the scale. That doesn't seem right. So I think that's a good place to start, because again, like, we'll get to the other part of the Selection Sunday, but the North Carolina situation, that's what everyone's talking about. Raider Jim, your thoughts?
Hopefully there is somebody somewhere that's already writing the script for the ESPN 30 for 30 that we'll probably see in 5 or 6 years, and they'll have people's faces blacked out and take their voices and slow them down a lot so they all sound like their heads are in a trash can. This is terrible, and as you said, it's not the first time, and I always love it when they say, well, no, he's on the committee, but he wasn't in the room when we made that decision. Didn't have to be in the room. He just had to leave. He needed to leave the $100 business card under everybody's tablet, and, okay, guys, I'm going to step out now. By the way, there's one for each of you. This is just, I'm sorry. I hate to be that cynical and that accusatory, but I don't see how it plays out any other way.
I agree. And before we hit record, I said, you don't even need a tinfoil hat to see the conspiracy here. And I even mentioned that, to believe that everything was done with the best intentions and no other extracurriculars, I think that's the conspiracy, because it's so optically bad. Again, even if everything was done by, correctly and everything, it still looks terrible. And I kind of compare it to almost like now, I've never worked in a job like this, and it probably doesn't happen, but in a certain sense, it kind of does. But essentially, your boss walks into your office and asks you, hey, everyone, I want everyone's opinion on Brandon's work performance. Brandon, I'm going to need you to step out. And then guess what? I step back in, and what's my first question? What'd y'all say? And guess what? No matter what they said, we're going to have to work together going forward. So again, whether I was in the room or not, or whether Bubba Howard was in the room or not, these are colleagues. These are people that he has relationships with. And it is very, very unfortunate. I personally don't believe it was as egregious as it looks. However, it looks so egregious. And if you are West Virginia, you do have to be very, very upset. The one thing I will say, and maybe playing a little devil's advocate here, 3 quad 2 losses. I think that's probably the thing that kept them out. However, they had 6 times more quad 1 wins than North Carolina and Xavier as well. Xavier only had 1 quad 1 win as well, but North Carolina is kind of that dartboard right now. Even San Diego State, like I was over here last week, I gave them their eulogy. And here they are coming in the play-in game. And no one's really talking about, wow, I can't believe they got in. Everyone's just all focused on North Carolina for very good reason. I will say, now I know I told y'all to put your tinfoil hats away. I'm going to ask y'all to grab them again, put them on, because I do have maybe a little bit of 40 chess. I don't know if the NCAA is this smart, but I think we all know that tournament expansion at the very least is on the horizon. And generally, everyone who isn't collecting a check from more games is against it. I'm wondering if this was kind of a predicate to maybe whetting our appetite for a bigger tournament. Again, because I'm sure West Virginia and Indiana fans would love to see a 70-16 tournament. Again, maybe something that just kind of popped into my head that, I wonder if they're going to kind of, I don't want to say sabotage the next 2 years, but be like, okay, you only won 68. We're going to mess with some stuff. And eventually you're going to come asking for more. So I don't know. Maybe a little too much. The tinfoil was too closely on my head and the blood stopped going, but you never know. But anyways, overall, Raider Jim, any other thoughts on Selection Sunday? We are going to go bracket by bracket, kind of giving our thoughts, but just kind of overall, anyone kind of overseeded, underseeded, or any teams that you think maybe should have gotten in besides Indiana or West Virginia haven't already been talked about.
Well, I was going to say that, yeah, as much as West Virginia has every right to be mad, and I guess the governor of West Virginia is actually calling for an investigation as to, hey, how did you explain it to me again? And it could be he's just going to make, like, as they do when you're interrogating somebody, you ask the same question enough times, the truth will come out because you're going to start dancing over your words if you're the person that has to respond. But along with West Virginia, you just said Indiana. Indiana, if they got penalized because of their quad 1 record, wow.
Yeah.
They have every right to be irritated because, again, all you got to do is look at the black and white of what UNC did, and it makes no sense. Boise getting left out, which was a minor travesty, but still for those fans, it's really too bad. Other things, who got overseeded, underseeded? How Kansas and Arizona ended up 7-4 respectively is boggles my mind. How many weeks in a row did we sit there going, boy, well, Tommy Lloyd, his boat, he's got to have that stuff on a Flex Seal to put on the bottom of his boat. Hey, if you got a hole in your boat, you better put this on because you're going under quick. And we watched with the underperformance really since the first of the year, the losses and just struggle, dropped all the way down in the rankings. Kansas dropped out of the rankings, and yet there they are. Kansas still gets a 7. Gonzaga gets an 8. Arizona gets a 4. And wow, that's probably 2 that really stood out to me. Did anybody get overranked besides them or overseeded? I don't think so. Of course, you can't argue with the top 4, and I can't even argue with the top 3 or 4 seedings. They were all good. They were, except for, again, Arizona. Arizona as a 4 is beyond me. Maybe UCLA, they were a little too high for me, but Hey, it's all going to come out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for me, the biggest one outside of the North Carolina is, I mean, you look at the final AP top 10, or maybe it was the coaches, but whatever, whichever one. Excuse me, 1 through 4, those teams get a 1 seed. 5 through 8, those teams get a 2 seed. The 9 team, they get a 3 seed. Who is ranked number 10? Louisville. They get an 8 seed. That boggles my mind. I tried to find the thought process there. Maybe they're undervaluing the ACC. Okay, that's fine. But hold on. What is the team that we just started the show talking about? The ACC's North Carolina. So they can't, or I don't imagine they undervalued the ACC if they got them in. Now, the one positive for Louisville is, and maybe this is kind of, the NCAA saying, look, you were terribly underseeded, but their first 2 games, or at least their first game and possibly second, is going to be in Lexington, which is, I mean, pretty much a home game. Auburn's got to look around and be like, wait a minute, we're the number 1 overall seed, and the second game we play is going to be a road game. That's crazy. So I think that little area, the Louisville getting seeded, and then the bone that they were thrown, it's kind of like, and for Creighton as well. Creighton's the 9 seed. They got to look around and be like, first of all, the 9 or the 8 seed you give us is number 10 in the country, and you're also putting us like 15 miles from their campus. What is going on? So that's tough. I will say I think BYU was also underseeded. The fact that they were seated below Arizona and only 1 ahead of Kansas is kind of, I mean, those are 3 teams all in the Big 12. I'm almost positive BYU put up 100 on Kansas, and I think that was a 25, 30-point victory, the largest loss of Bill Self's coaching career, at least at Kansas. That game, BYU VCU, is going to be a very intriguing contrast of styles. VCU wants to turn this into a 5-possession game. BYU wants to turn into a 500-possession game. So keep an eye on that. And the one other game that the first round game that really did jump out to me, if you would have told me at the start of the year, we're going to be looking at a Bill Self, John Calipari round 1 matchup, that would have been absolutely incredible. Kansas, Arkansas, goodness. And I believe waiting on the other side of that is possibly Rick Pitino. So, I mean, that's that little quadrant right there. You want to talk about some good coaching. That is a place to look. And my final thought is the SEC. 14 teams. That's incredible. We'll see. We always do see a conference. Obviously, one conference gets the most, and there is also one power conference that just can't seem to get out of the first weekend. There's always whether it's the Big Ten or the old Pac-12, maybe they go 1-9 or something, and it turns into a meme for the next 3 weeks. Who knows? We shall see with the SEC. One final thing, just because I do feel like maybe we took a, 5-10 minutes to kind of bash on the selection committee. Very, very difficult job to do, to have to go through, especially when you do have a conference where you're getting 14 teams and you're not allowed to put any teams against each other in that first round. A lot of juggling. I think they got some things wrong, no doubt about it. But I think overall this is like if I was grading this, I'd give it like a 93. Like, it's still an A. There's some things that we need to work on. But I have no problem with it. At the end of the day, I don't think West Virginia, I don't think Indiana, and I don't think Boise were going to win a national championship. So a lot of times when we do hum and haw about certain teams not making the tournaments, most of the time it's just for one or 2 games sake. But for the universities, we are talking about the difference in millions of dollars. So I could understand them kind of putting their hand up going, wait a minute. Although I will say, not a massive fan of the lawsuits in sports. Ever since I saw, the baseball guys, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa, Rafael Palmeiro going in front of Congress. Like, what are we doing here, guys? This is come on now. Let's get back to like we'll focus on our little, sports over here. You guys, deal with, important stuff. But we'll see how it goes for all involved. But with that being said, time to dive into the brackets. In region by region, we are going to do kind of our team reports in our when we get to our region. So we are going to start in the South, top left. If you're looking at it, it is the number one overall seeds bracket. Auburn, the one overall, and obviously the one in this one. We also do see Michigan State. Whoops, I had this ready and now I lost it. Michigan State is the 2 seed, and excuse me. Um, Come on, Brandon. Michigan State being the 2 seed, Auburn being the 1. And then Iowa State as the 3 and Texas A&M as the 4. This is the bracket that will also have our local UCSD Tritons. They got the 12 seed off of their win over in the Big West tournament. Their reward, number 5 Michigan, a very, very good team fresh off of their Big Ten tournament win. But I am going to start with San Diego State. Obviously, do a little team report before we both dive into this bracket. But as we mentioned earlier, San Diego State did make it into the tournament, and they are going to be playing a team we've spent a lot of time talking about, the North Carolina Tar Heels, in the play-in game just a few hours from now. Look, by the time this podcast goes live, the game will be well done and dusted. So I'm not going to sit here and give you a game preview or, really even give you a whole lot of predictions, other than the fact that personally, I am surprised San Diego State got in. If you listened last week, I pretty much, put their nail in their coffin. I thought they were going to lose out to Boise into getting into the tournament. Boise did not win the Mountain West. It was Colorado State in very dominant fashion. And in that, Boise was left out. San Diego State gets in. Again, I disagree with that. But as an Aztec fan, hey, I'll take it. But the Aztecs have a huge hurdle in front of them, first and foremost with North Carolina, mainly because it seems like every year there is one team that gets in and everybody goes, how did they get in? And that team then wins at least 1 or 2 games. And trust me, North Carolina haven't had a great season. However, very talented team. It'll be a big, big ask from San Diego State. The big man, Guap, is back today, or should be at least, is available. All signs point to him playing. And I do believe that was a very big reason why San Diego State got in. And also to kind of tie a bow on the local flavor, I also kind of in a weird way believe that because of how good UC San Diego was this year, that UC San Diego win actually turned into a very good win for San Diego State. So kind of in a weird way, who knows, maybe the little guys help prop the big team here in San Diego up. Personally, I think this lines up to be all about our friend Tom Izzo. Auburn has really been struggling. I think that we are going to see Michigan State take care of business all the way to the regional final. I actually have Louisville beating Auburn in that second round game. I haven't put my full bracket together because I'm still one of those old school guys. I want to see 64 teams. I don't like these slashes in the seed line, so I haven't put it all together, but I do have Michigan State coming out of here, and I have Louisville taking down Auburn in that second round game. One final thought I do have, actually 2, and it's going to be in this 4, 5, 12, 13 area. The trendy pick is UCSD. Everybody is on the UCSD bandwagon, and I love it. However, I think this is one of the toughest matchups for them stylistically that they could have had. It's going to be difficult going from the schedule they played to now going up against Michigan that's going to trot out 2 very good 7-footers. They're going to be a very physical team, and I think UC San Diego has every chance to win this game. However, I don't think it's as slam dunk as all these experts are making it seem. So keep an eye on that. But on the other side, I really like Yale. I really like Yale to get the job done against the Texas A&M Aggies. I've been very impressed with Yale. It seems like every year they've kind of surpassed Princeton as the Ivy League power that comes out. So yeah, those are just my kind of thoughts on the South region. Raider Jim, yours.
Yeah, I'll tell you, of course, I've been excited about UCSD since the beginning of the season, and they haven't let me down at all. So congratulations still and again to them. They're a 12th seed, but you're right. This draw, Michigan is that team that is bringing it together at the right time. They're playing hard. They're playing strong. And you said it, Irvine, the Anteaters had one 7-foot kid who was okay. He wasn't a bad player at all. He was very solid, very much in the middle there, and he did cause some problems for UCSD at times. And he is not close to the caliber of the 7-footers they're going to see when Michigan hits the court. So I think that's going to be detrimental, of course, to UCSD. They're going to go out there, they'll give it their best. It's going to be how well they overcome the spotlight and all the flashes of the cameras going on around them. But I think Michigan's going to take care of business in that one. And you and I were saying it for the last couple of weeks. What's with Auburn? All of a sudden, they're having difficulties, and they pulled one out the other day in that championship game, but they really had to work to do it. But it's what I said about the undefeated Baylors, the undefeated Gonzagas over the past few years. It's great to be there, great to be number one and have the t-shirts printed up when you're undefeated and 30-0. But that's not what matters. What matters is how much gas is left in the tank for those last 6 games of the season. And I think, like you just said, I think that is going to be against Auburn, Michigan State, where we questioned last year. Been very surprised, pleasantly surprised, because I'm a big fan of Tom Izzo, and I think he is going to march down. They're going to end up, it's going to be a tough game, that New Mexico Marquette. That's going to be a tough game, but I think Marquette will prevail. But Shaka is really going to have his work cut out for him and his boys, when he gets to Michigan State, and I think that's going to be the difference. Iowa State may be the one that really gives Michigan State some trouble. I think Iowa State is one of these, if you're a real fan of theirs, you know how good they are. But most people just say, oh, it's Iowa State. No, Iowa State's playing good ball, and I think they're going to make a lot of noise in the first few rounds. Definitely see them getting to for them to get to the Sweet 16 is not going to surprise me at all. And then Louisville Creighton, that's going to be a good game. Can't wait to see it. Creighton played pretty good the other day. But Louisville, this is not the Louisville team from last year, but I think this one's going to go down to the wire. If it goes to overtime, watch for Creighton to prevail in that one. Who's going to win the whole thing in this one? I think it's going to come down to Michigan State, and I'm with you. It's either going to be Louisville or Michigan. I'm not sure which one, but I don't see Auburn making it. But it would be kind of fun, wouldn't it, to see Michigan State and Michigan playing to see who's going to get that last shot.
Yeah, I will say one thing that might hamper Iowa State is the loss of Keshawn Gilbert, because
Yes.
that's difficult. Now, also maybe a little gamesmanship. The coach did not announce that news until after the selection show. So hey, look, no one's forcing you to disclose these things, and who knows, maybe some other teams going down the road, because there were some people saying that that's why West Virginia missed out, even though their guy was out in December and they won in Kansas without him. But again, I promise we're pretty much done talking West Virginia. But I'm glad you brought up Marquette, New Mexico. I think that's going to be the best game.
And like you, the other one I have here on my notes, which made me, that's why I broke into the big smirk. Not necessarily a Cinderella, but who's going to be the first round upset? It's going to be Yale. When Yale takes care of business against A&M, those Yale boys can shoot. They can put points up, and I think that's going to be the difference. They just have to be composed. They've got to cause some turnovers, and they also have to be able to really, really, really defend. And Hopefully they're going to be able to get the rebounds out there, the defensive rebounds. But if they can do that, they have every right to believe they're going to win that game.
Amen. If there's one thing you can say about those Ivy Leaguers, they're very, very intelligent. So they are probably going to have that basketball IQ down pretty well. It's going to be a very, very interesting region there in the South. Moving on to the West, this is going to be the bottom left of your bracket. The 1 seed here is the Florida Gators, another SEC team getting a 1 seed. St. John's is your 2 seed. 3 seed is Texas Tech, and your 4 seed is Maryland, who, I think their last 5 losses have all come either at the buzzer or with less than 2 seconds left. So, not great heading into March Madness, because that's pretty much what the madness is. Raider Jim, I'm going to give you the first bite at this apple in the West. Your thoughts, any Cinderellas who you have maybe coming out, or any other predictions or storylines you'd like to discuss?
Watch for Drake.
Mm-hmm.
Do they make it to the Sweet 16? That I'm not too sure of. Do they take care of business against Missouri? Yeah, I really believe in all of my heart that they will. And that's going to line them up against Texas Tech, because I don't see Texas Tech having any issues with UNCW. Kansas and Arkansas, good game, but again, 7, and we've already seen Kansas and the underperformance, if you will, for the last few weeks. And I think Arkansas is going to come take care of business on that one. 10/7. A lot of people are going to say probably not, but I say probably. St. John's is going to be hard to beat. These kids can just play. And quite honestly, Florida at the top of the bracket on the West side, I watched Florida and I was so thoroughly impressed with everything they do. They execute both sides of the court all the way around. Colorado State over Memphis. I like that too as a very good possibility. If I was Memphis, I'd be watching a lot of film right now. I don't think Grand Canyon has the team this year to put together an upset against Maryland, and Maryland's been playing some ball. Like you said, losing the buzzer beaters or the last, 60 seconds of a game. All that tells you is we got to refine it a little bit. But let's see what happens. I think Maryland's going to go do well. Maryland will probably get through Thursday, and I think that no, wait, are they playing Friday or Thursday? They play Friday, so I think they will be playing Friday and Sunday, and you'll see them more than likely advancing the Sweet 16. But when it's all said and done, who's going to win this side? Who's going to win the West? Wow. Right now, toss up, unless one of them gets defeated, it's going to go down to St. John's in Florida. I don't see anybody getting in their way.
I completely agree. It's funny. I actually just looked because I heard someone talking about it. Colorado State is actually favored by 1.5 in that game, which is kind of crazy.
That's
For a
wild.
12-5. Yeah. And I think 10 in a row for Colorado State, probably the hottest team in college basketball, at least at the mid-major level. And they've had to win everything. They were not going to be getting in without a conference tournament win. So I think that also does lean into that. So personally, I think Duke is going to win the national championship. That's just my thought. However, the kind of non-chalk or kind of the others that I'm also keeping an eye on were Florida and St. John's. Unfortunately, we're going to see more than likely that regional final. I completely agree. I really don't see anyone, even Texas Tech, obviously them being the 3 seed, it's kind of a cop out to say, oh, maybe that team could do something, but Maryland doesn't do a whole lot for me. Memphis, if they could even get past Colorado State, I really, really do believe that it's going to come down to Florida and St. John's. And I tell you what, if we get that regional final, folks, get ready, because you're going to have a fantastic offensive team in Florida going up against a fantastic defensive team in St. John's. Not going to go terribly on the record, but just kind of early on, just from what I've seen, I think Florida has a very slight edge. I've just been very impressed watching Florida the past few weeks. They are a very good basketball team. If St. John's, though, can figure out an offensive weapon, I really, really think they could do some damage here. But yeah, I do think Drake is probably the best Cinderella, opportunity here. And even then, a team that's won 30 games, it's kind of hard to call them a Cinderella, but the seeding will say that. I really think Memphis is going to take care of Colorado State. Again, a lot of times people fall in love with a lot of 12-5s, and sometimes, there's a reason Memphis is at that 5. So I do like that there, but I really, interesting to see UConn, Oklahoma. I know there are probably going to be some people that if we do see UConn, Florida, I would love to see that because I think we're going to see a very short spread, and I am going to be all over Florida on that one. I think UConn's time has come and gone, at least for now. Danny Hurley, fantastic. But you're not going to get, assuming they even get past Oklahoma, I do think they will. But again, this is a very chalky bracket for me, or at least this region, I should say. I could maybe, like I said, see Drake making some noise, but I don't really see any top seeds getting pushed out until they run into others. So give me St. John's, Florida in the regional final and a bucket of popcorn because I cannot wait for that one. And obviously, I would say the big storyline here, already kind of mentioned it, but that bottom quadrant of Calipari, Arkansas, or excuse me, Calipari, Self, and Patino possibly all meeting up, or at least two of those meeting up. It's going to be great. Moving on to where did I put? The Midwest side of things. It's going to be the bottom right of your bracket if you have it kind of vertically. The Midwest, the 1 seed is going to be the Houston Cougars. The 2 seed will be the Tennessee Volunteers. Kentucky is your 3 seed. Purdue is your 4 seed. Also, this is where we find Raider Jim's Gonzaga Bulldogs, the WCC tournament champions. They are the 8 seed. They are going to be facing the Georgia Bulldogs. And more than likely, if they get through there, we'll be facing off against Houston. Raider Jim, I'm going to give you the floor to talk about your Zags and the Midwest region.
Yeah, certainly not looking past anything on this first round. You never do that. What's Gonzaga bringing to the table? They're bringing that big West Coast Conference championship win. And that was big because they proved to themselves one thing. Even though they got taken out twice by St. Mary's, they learned a different type of basketball, or they played a different type of basketball. They played gritty. They played tough. One thing they need to have, though, you can't show up to the dance without some outside shots. And that was terrible for them. They have to be just as powerful offensively as they are defensively. They're a good scoring team. They rank high. You mentioned it before. Their free throw shooting is just phenomenal. That's going to be very important. So they got to play smart. They can't foul a lot. They just got to stay focused. Keep your eyes on the team in front of you. Mark Hughes got them in shape, and he is also making the right personnel changes. He's playing some real good chess with the players out there, and I think he's going to put a good team on the court, definitely against Georgia. I forget what the spread was. I know that they are already they are the favorite in that game. I want to say by 5 or 6 maybe, and I can see that. But let's even if they just win by 2, it's there. It is survive in advance. You got to get out of that first round. You can't worry about Houston. Houston can't worry about who they're going to play next. They're all going to be concentrating on who's right in front of them. Houston is just a beast of a team. But I will tell you, I watched Tennessee. And wow, that was they got that little guy on. Listen to me calling somebody a little guy thing, because when he stands out there against everybody else, he looks like he's 5'7", 5'8", and maybe he is. And doggone, his name escapes me. Kai somebody. His last name starts. This kid is a player, and he was going up against Auburn. And let me tell you what, he backed down from I think it was Auburn, and he backed down from nobody. And he's a leader. So I think you're going to see Tennessee, of course, gets out of that first game on Thursday. So does Utah State. Utah State is going to take care of business against UCLA. No doubt about it for me. I think that's going to be fun. Kentucky's going to take care of business against Troy. Illinois, who is playing some real good basketball of late. Look for them to advance. If you're Texas or Xavier, boy, you think you got it tough tonight? Wait until you wake up and you got to go play against Illinois, and watch for Illinois to dispatch Kentucky over the weekend as well. I think that's going to happen. Purdue's going to get on, move up again against Clemson, and then it's going to come down to who's going to be the faster of the two teams, and I give Clemson the nod on that one. Gonzaga, Georgia, you know who my pick is in that one, and if they do survive and advance out of that round, and if it ends up that they've got to play Houston, Gonzaga has the character to take care of business, and they've got it because of the players. They play smart ball the majority of the time. As long as Ryan Nembhard doesn't get crazy and get called for any more technicals while he's not even on the court, I think Gonzaga will be fine. And everybody's, you love them or you hate them, and you just would love to see them one more time get into that Sweet 16 round.
Yeah, this is kind of crazy. I mean, so this is now Gonzaga is going to be the third 8 seed that we've kind of talked about. And let's just kind of recap. You got the 8 seed at the top of this that was finished the season ranked number 10 in the country in Louisville. Then you have the other 8 seed in the West, UConn, maybe you heard of them, two-time defending national champs. And then you got the 8 seed in the Midwest, which is Gonzaga, which is closer to being ranked number 8 rather than seeded number 8 normally. So it's pretty incredible to see where we're at. A tough draw for Houston, assuming Gonzaga can take care of business, which I do believe that they will. Houston is an interesting story because I do think this is a team that has their expectations have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And this year they are as high as they can go. And they've essentially, outside of being the number 1 overall seed, they've exceeded all expectations. So I'm interested to see a Gonzaga-Houston showdown. Again, will we see it? That's another question. I'm sure Georgia and, Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, I'm sure wants to say something about that. But I do think a Houston-Gonzaga matchup is very likely, and I'm going to call it right now. Houston-Gonzaga, if we get that in the second round, you might as well call that the regional final. I am very big on Houston. I think they are right behind St. John's in Florida, kind of I have them as a better team than Auburn. I have them as a better team than Tennessee. And even in this one, the other part of it, Kentucky. I do think it's going to be Kentucky versus Houston. It's crazy to me that it's 2025. I'm doing a college basketball podcast, and I'm still referencing Lamont Butler. Now his health is up for debate. And I like Lamont Butler. It's great, but I feel like he's been in college for 18 years now. I mean, it was 2 or 3 years ago, he was the game-winning shot in the Final Four for San Diego State over Florida Atlantic. So he's been around the block, but his health, I think, is going to be very, very key for Kentucky. A very different Kentucky team than what we're used to seeing with kind of the one-and-dones and the Calipari kids, if you will. This is a veteran team that might not be veterans of Kentucky, but they're veterans of college basketball. These are, adults already, essentially. A lot of 22, 23, 24-year-olds running around, which in Calipari's time, it was a lot of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. That's a big difference there when you get to the tournament. I think they are a team to keep an eye on outside of the Houston Gonzaga. I think McNeese State is very live over Clemson. And I'm going to go crazy right here. I'm going to call it High Point over Purdue. I think High Point can get it done. I think Purdue, they've been massively overseeded. Zach Edey is into the NBA. And Purdue just doesn't do it for me. They really even didn't do a whole lot for me last year, other than the fact that, okay, well, yeah, they got a real big tall guy. And unfortunately, that was the team that, tried to go up against UConn. And I knew that was not going to happen. So keep an eye, High Point. At the very least, keep an eye on that spread. I think they cover, but I do think they take down. I think we see McNeese State High Point. I think this is the bracket of chaos. I don't think we see, unless it's Gonzaga, I don't think we see a big seed go to the Final Four, but I think this is your chaos bracket. And even the Texas Xavier situation, that's a tough matchup for Illinois going forward. So this is the bracket where I'm just kind of looking around going, okay, if anything's going to bust, it's probably going to be around here. So let me see if I can get ahead of that. But with that being said, I still believe Houston and Gonzaga. I cannot believe Gonzaga got an 8 seed. I know they've had a bit of a down year, but the talent at some point needs to kind of go ahead of everything. And they have so much talent for an 8 seed, maybe the most talent. Well, not with Louisville on that line, but that's the committee's fault, not Gonzaga's. So very, very intriguing matchup. Hopefully Georgia doesn't become the fly in the champagne for all of us here on the podcast, but moving on to the final region. This is the top right. This is the East, and this is where you will find the Duke Blue Devils as the 1 seed. The 2 seed is going to be the Alabama Crimson Tide. The 3 seed is the Wisconsin Badgers, and the 4 seed, I don't know, somehow, some way, the Arizona Wildcats are a 4 seed. But I will say this, their matchup against Akron, that's going to be a tough one. I'll get this one started, and that might be the place I actually want to start. I think Akron is a team that probably should have got a 12 or an 11. They do play in the MAC, but this is a very, very good team. Akron is very live against Arizona in that one. I would not be surprised to see them take care of business. I was very, very surprised when Selection Show came out. I didn't realize Baylor was going to be in the tournament. So congratulations to them. And, I looked at their resume. Yeah, they have every right to be in there, but very quietly, they put together a very good season. I do think they take care of Mississippi State. But I don't think anyone can really stand up to Duke. I would not be surprised to see St. Mary's take care of Alabama in the second round. I Alabama, they remind me a lot of the Miami Dolphins. They are flashy and you ooh and you ah, but the minute they get into a rock fight, they fold like a cheap suit. And guess what March is? Nothing but rock fights. We saw it 2 years ago against San Diego State. You go up against a good defensive team that says, look, let's keep the possessions to a minimum and let's score 70 and let's frustrate the you-know-what out of them. How does Alabama respond? I like St. Mary's to get through there. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Alabama. The only real team that I think I could see standing up to Duke is maybe Wisconsin, but I'm telling you, if BYU can get past VCU, keep an eye on them because BYU, maybe not a whole lot of people have seen them, but this is a very, very good team and criminally underrated at 6. I think we need to switch Arizona and BYU. Arizona's a 6, BYU's a 4. But it's a very tough matchup for BYU in that first one. It's kind of like one of those, well, if they get through that, I could see them getting all the way to the regional final. But I might even take VCU just because of the way that team plays and stylistically how they match up. So yeah, I would say Akron is the only real big Cinderella here. And then maybe take it a step further into the second round. And I'm calling my shot with St. Mary's taking down Alabama, of course, assuming St. Mary's gets past a very, very good and surprising Vanderbilt team that has a lot of scalps on their mantle from the SEC this year. But I think at the end of the day, I think this is Duke's tournament to lose, and this is certainly Duke's region to lose. But Raider Jim, give us your thoughts on the East brackets.
Well, we are usually so right on with our thoughts and everything, and believe it or not, I've got Vanderbilt going on.
Wow,
Alex Chase Brown, and primarily because what division do they play in?
Yep.
And so you look at their overall record and go, yeah, these guys have lost some games. Yeah, look who they've played.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those guys that are scattered all over the brackets, and they've played them, and maybe they didn't even beat them. Maybe they won one here, won one there, lost a few. But even when they lost, they're some of those games they only lost by a couple baskets. I think Vanderbilt has just had so much good uh, sparring work, if you will, to get up to this point to play a St. Mary's. They're going to come out tough, and I think it's going to be a challenge for Randy Bennett and the boys. Vanderbilt's not going to get past an Alabama, I don't believe, but I think what you're going to end up seeing by the time we get done with the weekend, it's going to be somewhere along the way. You're going to see it's going to be BYU and Alabama. I'm with you. I think BYU is one of the teams to beat in this one. And I love the way BYU is playing right now. I think they're tough, they're gritty. I think they can take care of business against Wisconsin, and not a problem at all there. Well, a challenge, but they can persevere. Arizona, Akron. If Arizona lost that opening game, I'm not going to be that surprised.
Yeah.
But I think they will persevere on that one. But they're not going to be able to get past Oregon. Oregon's just those flashy kids, man. They're just fast, fast, fast. They're going to put up some offense, and then that would eventually get us to, can you see Duke and Oregon playing? And that would be kind of a fun game to see. And it would. You look at the overall size and the ability of Duke, and so in my mind, and this is so not the truth, but you imagine Oregon, a bunch of little guys, ankle biters, just going around, just creating havoc and just irritating the shirts off of the Duke guys if it gets that far. But I think Oregon's got a fair chance to move on out of the weekend. Baylor, hey, stranger things have happened. If a 9 can put it together, it's going to be a good Baylor team. They still struggle though a little bit. And when that opening game, Mississippi State, that's not an easy game. And whoever gets past Mississippi State or Baylor, yeah, you're going to have to go up against the guys that are probably the top pick to win it all.
Yeah, and also just a little bit of a injury update. It is not expected. Definitely, or we will definitely not see Cooper Flagg in the first round game, and most people do believe we will not see him in the second round game either. There's even some talk about the Sweet 16 not happening either. Unsure if that's more precaution or severity. I don't know. And to be honest, we'll probably won't know. But just for posterity's sake, Duke will be facing off against American University or Mount St. Mary's. That'll be a play-in game tomorrow. So just keep that in mind, only because again, I think we're all gonna just Duke probably doesn't need Cooper Flagg against either American or Mount St. Mary and Mississippi State and Baylor. Cooper Flagg is very good, but Duke overall is very good. They also won the ACC pretty convincingly without Cooper Flagg, at least the tournament. So there are some people that are like, oh, they might get, it's kind of ironic that Duke does get of the 4-8 seeds, 3 of them, there's massive blue blood storylines behind them. And then the other 8 seed is Mississippi State and Baylor, which, with all due respect to those, it's not the Gonzagas, the UConns, or the Louisvilles of the world. But with that being said, that's all we have. We've got you ready for the first round or first 2 rounds. Obviously, we will be back next week to really dive into it, because as smart as we are, I don't care who you are, by about game 3 or 4, your bracket is not going to be perfect. So yeah, everyone's got to kind of go back to the drawing board after the first weekend. We are going to do the same next week. But Raider Jim, your final thoughts for this episode of the In the Paint podcast.
Oh, just best of luck to all these kids. I hope I not hope they will. They will all make lifetime memories one way or the other. And I just, wish them and their families safe travels, good physical safety on the floor too. I hope everybody comes out unscathed. But I really, really, really want to give a shout out to the Lady Aztecs,
Yes,
who are going on. And then, of course, the Lady Tritons. The
Mhm.
Lady Tritons going to the dance for the first time, and especially, if I may, let me tip a bit of my heritage here, and I want to give a shout out to Samaya Sugapong, the 5'7" guard, Filipina, leading the Tritons. She was, as a sophomore, all Big West first team, Big West championship most outstanding player. She was Big West player of the week 4 times during the season, all at 5'7". She's a little dynamo. She's kind of like the Nimhart of the Lady Tritons. So congratulations, gals. Uh, do us proud. I'm sure you know it's going to be a tough road, but you're going to make us proud. Congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, very similar on my final thoughts. Big shout out to Lady Aztecs. They did get a 14 seed, gonna be a really tough spot, but it's gonna be up in Raider Jim's neck of the woods. Gonna be in Spokane, Gonzaga University, I assume. But they will be facing, yeah, Kim Mulkey's LSU Tigers. No Angel Reese there, but obviously a 3 seed LSU. Very, very talented team. And then, yes, the Lady Tritons, UC San Diego, they're going to be getting an opportunity. Hey, they have an opportunity to win a tournament game. They're facing off against Southern University. The winner of that, I believe, would face UCLA. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the bracket. I'm trying to put 2 and 2 together regionally. I would assume they would face UCLA, who is the 1 seed. So it'll either be UCLA or Texas there, but they're gonna have to get through Southern University. And then also myself, I am a huge USC fan, obviously, mainly on the football side of things, just because you know we're not great at basketball. But that's not the case on the ladies' side of things. Juju Watkins probably the best player in basketball. She's incredible. I love watching her play. Got to know her, or at least was familiar with her game last year in the tournament when they made a run into the tournament. They are a 1 seed. They'll be facing off against UNC Greensboro in the oh, they don't I don't Birmingham region. They just go with Birmingham 2, Birmingham 3 region. I apologize. I'm not sure how they do these regions, but it's the bottom left. They're fantastic stuff from the ladies. And look, we're going to get to these points where, you know, I remember growing up when you got to the women's tournament, the only question you had, actually you had 2 questions. Who's gonna play UConn and how much is UConn going to beat them by? And now the parity is everywhere. Obviously, the talent is through the roof. Just because Caitlin Clark isn't playing there at Iowa or Angel Reese at LSU, I'm telling you, there is so much talent. Whether it's Paige Buchers, even though I believe she's hurt, or as I said, Juju Watkins and so many other fantastic athletes that are going to put it all on the line, just as the men are this weekend. I believe the Lady Tritons get rolling tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Again, the bracket I'm looking at, I can't tell if that's Eastern or Pacific, but y'all got Google. You can figure it out. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out the ladies, not just the Lady Tritons, the Lady Aztecs, the Lady Trojans, but all the ladies out there that are going to be playing in March Madness. We'll be definitely keeping an eye on them. We'll be talking about them as that tournament gets down to the nitty gritty. But with that being said, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the In the Paint podcast, presented by the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. It is time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating, everybody. We'll talk to y'all very soon. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.
Let's dance.